There was a time when my father was untouchable. Not in a bad way, in the way that made you believe nothing could ever go wrong as long as he was there. He built things with his bare hands, provided for us without complaint, and when he walked into a room, you felt safe. But when his world collapsed, so did ours. The man who once lifted us up became the weight we could barely carry. And for months, I said nothing. I watched him destroy the people I loved, piece by piece, hoping he'd wake up and remember who he used to be. Until the night I realized silence wasn't keeping the peace. It was killing us. Welcome to my Reddit diaries, where every story reveals the unseen battles within families. Don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I was 17 when everything fell apart. Before that, life was good. Not perfect, but good. My dad owned a construction company. Nothing massive, but it was his. He'd started it from nothing, worked his way up, and by the time I was in high school, we were comfortable. Not rich, but we didn't worry about money. We lived in a decent house on the edge of town, had 2 cars, went on vacation once a year to the coast. Dad was the kind of man people respected. He'd come home covered in dust and cement, smelling like work, and he'd still have energy to ask about my day, to look at my sister Emma's drawings, to kiss my mom and tell her dinners smelled amazing. He was solid. Reliable. The kind of father you don't realize you're lucky to have until he's gone. Emma was 14, 3 years younger than me. She was artistic, sensitive, always drawing or painting something. She worshipped Dad. She'd show him every sketch, every watercolor, and he'd put them up on the fridge like they belonged in a gallery. She'd light up when he praised her work. That smile, it could fill a room. Mom was the glue. She worked part-time as a nurse, managed the house, kept us all together. She was patient in a way I didn't appreciate back then. The kind of patience that doesn't demand recognition, that just quietly holds everything in place. And then, 6 months before everything changed, Dad's business partner disappeared. His name was Marcus. Dad had known him for 15 years. They'd built the company together, split everything down the middle, trusted each other completely. Turns out, Marcus had been embezzling for 2 years. Siphoning money into offshore accounts, falsifying records, lying to everyone. By the time Dad found out, Marcus was gone. Vanished to another country. And the company was drowning in debt. Lawsuits came fast. Contractors Dad owed money to, suppliers, employees who hadn't been paid. The legal bills piled up. Dad tried to fight it, tried to save what he'd built, but it was too late. Within 3 months, the company was gone. Liquidated. Everything Dad had worked for, just erased. And that's when he started to disappear too. Not physically. He was still there in the house, taking up space. But the man I knew, the father I'd looked up to my entire life, he was gone. In his place was someone I didn't recognize. It started small. He stopped going out. Stopped taking calls. He'd sit in his home office with the door closed, drinking whiskey in the middle of the day. Mom would try to talk to him and he'd brush her off. Tell her he needed space. Tell her he was fine. But he wasn't fine. The anger came next. At first, it was just irritation. He'd snap at Mom for small things. Dinner wasn't ready on time. The house was too loud. Why was Emma playing music when he was trying to think? But it escalated. One night, Mom made his favorite meal, trying to cheer him up. She spent hours on it. But when she served it, he barely looked at it. Took one bite, pushed the plate away. She asked him what was wrong. He exploded. Told her it was overcooked. Told her she never paid attention to anything. Told her if she'd been more supportive, maybe he wouldn't have lost everything. She just stood there, stunned, and then quietly cleared the table. I saw her wipe her eyes in the kitchen when she thought no one was looking. Emma and I learned to stay out of his way. We'd hear him coming and scatter. She'd retreat to her room with her headphones on. I'd find excuses to leave the house, go to a friend's place, work extra shifts at the part-time job I'd picked up. But Mom, she couldn't hide. She absorbed every bit of his rage, his bitterness, his blame. She made excuses for him. To us, to relatives who called asking if everything was okay. She'd smile and say he was just stressed, that it would pass. I wanted to believe her. But weeks turned into months, and it only got worse. He'd pick fights over nothing. Accuse Mom of things that didn't make sense. He'd sit in the living room in the dark, drinking, muttering to himself. Sometimes he'd cry. Other times he'd throw things. Once, he put his fist through the wall because he couldn't find his phone. Emma stopped showing him her drawings. Stopped talking at dinner. She became a ghost in her own home, tiptoeing around, trying to be invisible. I'd hear her crying in her room at night, and I'd go sit with her, tell her it would be okay. But I didn't know if I believed that anymore. I tried to be the peacemaker. The one who kept things calm. I'd mediate when arguments started, distract Dad when he seemed on the verge of another outburst, lie to relatives when they asked too many questions. I told myself I was helping, that I was keeping the family together. But really, I was just enabling the destruction. The breaking point came on a Wednesday night. Emma had been working on a sketchbook for weeks. Personal stuff, things she didn't usually show anyone. But she'd left it on the kitchen table by accident. Dad found it. I was in my room when I heard him yelling. I came out to find him in the living room, holding the sketchbook, pages torn and scattered around him. Emma was standing there, tears streaming down her face, trying to explain. One of her drawings was of our family. Emma all smiling. But where Dad's face should have been, she'd scribbled it out. Just black ink, chaotic and angry. He held it up, his voice shaking with rage. This is what you think of me? This is how you see me? Dad, you ungrateful little brat. After everything I've done for you. Everything I've sacrificed. He ripped the page in half. Then another. And another. Emma was sobbing, begging him to stop. Mom rushed in, tried to take the sketchbook from him. He shoved her away. Not hard, but enough. Enough that she stumbled back, shocked. And I just stood there. Frozen. Fists clenched at my sides. Heart pounding. Every part of me screaming to do something, say something. But I didn't. Emma ran to her room. Mom followed her. Dad threw the sketchbook on the floor and went back to his office, slamming the door. And I stood there in the silence, staring at the torn pages scattered across the floor like wreckage. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. Emma crying through the wall. Mom's muffled voice trying to comfort her. And later, the sound of my parents arguing in their bedroom. Low, tense, exhausted. Thought about my father. The man he used to be. The man who taught me how to ride a bike, who came to every one of my baseball games, who'd tell me stories about building his first house with his own hands. I missed that man. I missed him so much it physically hurt. But that man was gone. And in his place was someone who was tearing us apart. I realized something that night, lying there in the dark. Silence wasn't keeping the peace. It was killing us. And I had a choice to make. Keep swallowing my words, keep pretending everything would magically get better, keep watching the people I loved suffer. Or finally speak. Even if it meant losing him forever. The weeks that followed were suffocating. Dad's drinking got worse. He'd start in the afternoon now, not even bothering to hide the bottles anymore. They'd line up on his desk like soldiers, empty and accusing. The smell of whiskey became part of the house, seeping into the furniture, the walls, our clothes. Mom picked up extra shifts at the hospital. Double shifts, night shifts, anything to keep the bills paid. She'd come home exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, and Dad would be waiting with some new accusation. Why was she never home? Was she avoiding him? Did she think she was better than him now that she was the only one working? She never fought back. Just took it. Apologized. Tried to smooth things over. And every time, I watched a little more of her disappear. Emma stopped eating properly. She'd push food around her plate, claim she wasn't hungry, then go to her room. I'd see her getting thinner, her clothes hanging loose on her frame. She'd stopped drawing entirely. Her art supplies sat untouched in the corner of her room, gathering dust. The light that used to shine from her was dimming, and I didn't know how to bring it back. I was working nearly full-time now, lying to my boss about being 18 so I could get more hours. I'd go to school, then straight to work, coming home late just to avoid being in that house. I was funneling every paycheck to Mom, helping with groceries, utilities, anything to keep us afloat. But I never told Dad. Because I knew what he'd say. I knew he'd find some way to turn it into another reason to hate himself, another weapon to use against us. The guilt was eating me alive. I'd lie awake at night replaying that moment with Emma's sketchbook, wishing I'd said something, done something. But I'd missed my chance. And now I was just surviving, day by day, waiting for the inevitable collapse. It came on a Friday. I got home late from work, around 10. The house was dark except for the living room, where the TV flickered with no sound. Dad was on the couch, a nearly empty bottle in his hand, staring at nothing. I tried to slip past him to my room. "Where the hell have you been?" I froze. His voice was slurred but sharp, dangerous in that unpredictable way that made my stomach clench. "Work. I had a closing shift." "Work." He laughed, bitter and hollow. "Out having fun while your mother kills herself trying to keep this family together." I wasn't having fun. I was working, trying to help. He stood up, unsteady, and I instinctively took a step back. He noticed. Something flickered across his face, hurt or rage, I couldn't tell. "Trying to help? You think flipping burgers makes you a man? You think a few dollars an hour means anything? It's something. More than." I stopped myself, but too late. The words hung in the air between us, unfinished but understood. "More than you're doing." His face darkened. "More than what? Say it. Go ahead." "I didn't mean. You think I'm worthless. Just like everyone else. Just like your mother, your sister, the whole damn town. You think I'm nothing. Dad, that's not. I gave you everything." His voice rose, raw and jagged. "I worked myself to the bone for this family. I built a life for you. And this is what I get? Judgment? Pity? Mom appeared in the doorway, still in her scrubs from work. Please, just stop. He didn't mean anything. He's just tired. Dad turned on her and I saw her flinch. Saw her instinctively brace herself, and something inside me cracked. Don't you start. You're never here. Always working, always making excuses. Maybe if you'd been a better wife, if you'd supported me instead of running away. She's working to keep us alive. The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. She's working because you won't. The room went silent. Completely, utterly silent. Dad stared at me like I'd struck him. Mom's hand went to her mouth. And somewhere upstairs, I heard Emma's door open, her footsteps on the landing. My heart was hammering, adrenaline flooding my system, but I couldn't stop now. The dam had broken. You lost your business. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. What Marcus did was horrible, and you didn't deserve it. But you don't get to destroy us because you're in pain. You don't get to tear Mom apart. You don't get to make Emma afraid in her own home. You don't get to do this. You don't know what you're talking about. His voice was low, trembling. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've watched you for months. Watch you drink yourself into oblivion. Watch you blame everyone else for what happened. Watch you turn into someone I don't even recognize. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't care. I loved the man you used to be. The dad who taught me how to throw a baseball. Who told me he was proud of me. Who made Emma laugh until she couldn't breathe. I loved that man so much. My voice broke. But this version of you? I don't know who you are. And if you don't stop, if you don't get help, if you don't change, I'm taking Emma and Mom, and we're leaving. Because I won't watch you kill them. I won't. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad's face went through a dozen emotions at once. Rage. Something that might have been shame. His hands were shaking, the bottle slipping from his fingers and hitting the floor with a dull thud. And then he moved. Faster than I expected. He crossed the room and grabbed me by the front of my shirt, slammed me back against the wall. I heard Mom scream. Heard Emma cry out from the stairs. His face was inches from mine, his breath hot and sour, his eyes wild and unfocused. You dare? You dare threaten me in my own house? I should have been terrified. Some part of me was. But mostly I just felt tired. Tired of being afraid. Tired of walking on eggshells. Tired of watching everyone I loved suffer. So I looked him dead in the eyes and said the only thing I could think of. Go ahead. Hit me. Prove me right. His fist drew back. Mom was pulling at his arm, begging him to stop. Emma was crying, saying something I couldn't make out over the rushing in my ears. But I didn't look away. I held his gaze, waiting. And then I saw it. The exact moment something shifted behind his eyes. The moment the fog cleared just enough for him to see what he was doing. To see me, his son, pinned against the wall. To see his wife clawing at his arm. To see his daughter collapsed on the stairs, sobbing. To see what he'd become. His hand dropped. The grip on my shirt loosened. He stumbled backward, staring at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. Oh God. His voice was barely a whisper. Oh God, what am I doing? He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw my father again. Just for a second. Behind the anger and the alcohol and the pain, I saw him. And then he turned and ran. Out the front door, into the night. We heard his truck start, heard the tires screeching as he tore out of the driveway. Mom sank to the floor, her whole body shaking. Emma came down the stairs and threw herself into my arms, and I held her while she cried into my chest. My own legs felt weak, but I stayed standing. Someone had to. We stayed like that for a long time. The three of us in the wreckage of our living room, holding each other in the silence Dad left behind. Later, after Emma had finally fallen asleep and Mom had gone to her room, I sat on the front porch in the cold night air. My hands were still shaking. My chest ached. Everything hurt. I kept replaying the moment. The look in his eyes when he grabbed me. The sound of Emma's crying. The way Mom had crumpled. And I wondered if I'd just destroyed what was left of our family. If standing up to him had been the right thing or the worst mistake of my life. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix this. It was Dad. I stared at the message for a long time, tears blurring the screen. And I realized I didn't have an answer for him. Because I didn't know either. All I knew was that something had broken tonight. Something fundamental and irreparable. And whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. Dad didn't come home that night. Or the next morning. I woke up to Mom sitting at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, staring at her phone. The house felt different. Lighter somehow, but also emptier, like someone had removed a piece of the foundation and we were all waiting to see if the rest would hold. Emma came down around 9, her eyes swollen from crying. She didn't say anything, just sat next to Mom and leaned her head on her shoulder. Mom wrapped an arm around her, kissed the top of her head. We sat there in silence, the three of us, waiting. Around noon, Mom's phone rang. She looked at the screen, hesitated, then answered. "Where are you?" Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor underneath. A long pause. Just let us know you're safe." She hung up and looked at us. "He's staying with his friend Rob. He says he needs time to think." Relief and guilt hit me simultaneously. Relief that he was safe, that we had space to breathe. Guilt that I'd been the one to drive him away. That maybe I'd gone too far. That maybe I should have handled it differently. Emma must have seen it on my face because she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't blame yourself. You saved us last night." But I wasn't sure I believed that yet. The next 2 weeks were strange. The house was peaceful in a way it hadn't been in months. We could talk without whispering. Emma started eating again. Mom slept more than 4 hours a night. We functioned like a family instead of hostages. But there was also a dad-shaped hole in everything we did. His empty chair at dinner. His office with the door still closed. The truck that wasn't in the driveway. I missed him. Even after everything, I missed him. On day 15, he called me directly. My phone rang while I was at work, his name lighting up the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something made me step outside into the parking lot and press accept. "Hey." His voice sounded different. Clear. Sober. "Hey." Silence. Then, "Can we meet? Just you and me? There's a diner off Highway 9. Tomorrow morning if you're free." I should have said no. I should have told him I needed more time, that we all did. But instead I said, "What time?" 8. "I'll be there." I didn't tell Mom or Emma. I didn't know what to tell them. The diner was nearly empty when I arrived. Dad was already there, sitting in a back booth, a cup of coffee in front of him. He looked different. Thinner. He'd shaved, cut his hair. His eyes were clear, focused in a way they hadn't been in months. I slid into the seat across from him, and we just looked at each other for a moment. "You look good," I finally said. He laughed, bitter. "I look like hell. But I'm sober. 15 days now." "That's good. That's really good. I've been going to meetings. Every day. Sometimes twice a day when the cravings get bad." He wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. "And I started seeing a therapist. Guy named Dr. Chin. He specializes in trauma and addiction." I nodded, not sure what to say. "I'm not calling this meeting to ask you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve that. Not yet. Maybe not ever." His voice cracked. "But I need you to know that I'm trying. I'm finally trying." Tears were building behind my eyes. "Why now? Why did it take me nearly getting hurt for you to wake up?" He flinched like I'd hit him. "Because I saw myself that night. Really saw what I'd become. I had my hands on my son, my own son, and I was about to." He couldn't finish. "That wasn't me. That wasn't the man I wanted to be. The man I promised your mother I'd be when we got married. The man I promised myself I'd be when you were born." "So what changed?" "You did. You stood up to me. You drew a line. And for the first time in months, someone treated me like I was capable of being better instead of just something to be endured." He met my eyes. "You believed I could still be saved. Even when I didn't." I wiped at my face, embarrassed by the tears. I was terrified. "I know. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. For what I put you through. For what I put your mother and Emma through. For turning our home into a war zone." His hands were shaking. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I'm asking for a chance. A chance to prove I can be the father you deserve again." We sat there in that diner booth for 2 hours. He told me about the meetings, about the things he was learning in therapy. About how losing the business had made him feel like he'd lost his identity, his worth. How the shame had been eating him alive. How instead of facing it, he tried to drown it and ended up drowning everyone else in the process. I told him about the fear. About lying awake at night listening to him destroy things. About watching Mom disappear piece by piece. About holding Emma while she cried and not knowing how to make it better. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was honest. And that felt like a start. Over the next few months, things changed slowly. Dad got a job doing construction work for someone else's company. It was humbling for him, taking orders instead of giving them, but he showed up every day. He stayed sober. He kept going to meetings and therapy. He asked if he could come to family dinners once a week. Just Sunday nights. Mom agreed cautiously. Emma was resistant at first, but eventually she said yes. Those first dinners were awkward. Painful even. Long silences. Forced conversations. Dad trying too hard, all of us waiting for the other shoe to drop. But gradually, incrementally, it got easier. He apologized to Mom. Really apologized, not the half-hearted excuses from before. He told her she deserved better than what he'd put her through. She cried. They talked for hours. They started going to couples therapy together. The breakthrough with Emma took longer. She was the most wounded, the most guarded. But one Sunday, she brought down a new sketchbook, sat at the table and drew while we ate. Dad watched her, quiet, respectful. When she finished, she slid the drawing across the table to him. It was our family again. All four of us. Together. Oh. Dad's hands shook as he held it. Tears streamed down his face. "Can I keep this?" he whispered. Emma nodded. He got it framed. It hangs in his apartment now, above his desk. He looks at it every day, he told me. A reminder of what he almost lost. What he's fighting to keep. It's been a year now since that night. Dad's still sober. Still in therapy. He moved back home 6 months ago, and while it's not perfect, it's stable. He's building a new woodworking business, small projects, honest work with his hands. He seems more at peace than I've seen him in years. Emma's drawing again. Her room is full of color and life. She's applying to art schools, and Dad helps her with her portfolio, offering gentle suggestions, praising her talent. Mom smiles more. Really smiles, not the forced ones from before. And me? I'm in college now, studying psychology. Because I learned something through all of this. I learned that broken people can heal. That hitting rock bottom isn't the end of the story. That love sometimes means having the courage to say the hard things, even when it terrifies you. My father isn't the man he used to be. He's different now. More humble. More aware. More intentional. In some ways, he's better. We were in his workshop last week, working on a table together in comfortable silence, when he stopped and looked at me. "I'm proud of you. For standing up to me. For not letting me destroy everything. I needed that." I nodded. "I know. You saved us. You know that, right?" I thought about it. About that night. About the fear and the anger and the desperate hope that speaking up would change something. "We saved each other," I said finally. And I think that's the truth. Because courage isn't just about standing in the fire. It's knowing when to say enough. When to draw the line. When to risk everything because the alternative is losing yourself. If you're in a storm that never ends, if someone you love has become someone you fear, hear me. You don't owe them your suffering. You can love someone and still protect yourself. You can forgive someone and still have boundaries. And if you're brave enough to speak up, to draw that line, you might just save them. But more importantly, you'll save yourself. Because courage isn't standing in the fire. It's knowing when to say enough. Thanks for watching my Reddit diaries. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and share your own story if you feel comfortable. Sometimes just knowing someone else has been there makes all the difference. And if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or family crisis, please reach out. There are resources available. You're not alone. I'll see you in the next story.